Jeff Petry is back. Is he really, though? Show of hands if when the trade news last Sunday hit, any of you fell off your chair when you saw that the Montreal Canadiens had reacquired Jeff Petry. That's right, on paper, defenseman Jeff Petry back with the Montreal Canadiens, but today we're going to talk about why I think it's a decently good possibility that it's not going to be for very long. Headlines across the NHL over the weekend when the San Jose Sharks, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Montreal Canadiens all combined for a pretty impressive trade that saw Erik Karlsson shipped off to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Part of that deal involved defenseman Jeff Petry going from Pittsburgh back to Montreal, in addition to goaltender Casey DeSmith, as well as forward prospect Nathan Legare, and a 2025 second-round draft pick. What did Kent Hughes have to pay for it? Got Mike Hoffman and Rem Pitlick off the roster. Big win for Kent Hughes right there. So on the face of things, a really interesting trade that Kent Hughes is doing. But it begs the question, so Jeff Petry coming back, is he really back? It has been radio silence, both from the team perspective and from the Petry perspective ever since this trade happened. On the team side of things, has anyone noticed that there hasn't been a press availability with either Kent Hughes and or Jeff Petry? It would be pretty standard within at least the first couple of days for, the big name of the trade to have a media availability, and that hasn't happened yet for Jeff Petry and the Montreal Canadiens. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons that could be. Number one, on the team side of things, maybe Kent Hughes knows that he doesn't intend to keep Jeff Petry. Whether he's communicated that to Petry or not, or Petry's agent, there is the possibility that Kent Hughes agreed to take Jeff Petry on the trade deal, knowing that he's going to flip him, knowing that either A, he's not needed on the roster, or B, knowing that the Petrys probably don't want to be back in Montreal, and so he's just going to use him as a piece to flip in another trade, perhaps. So why would you have a press conference with a player that you don't intend to keep, that you intend to use as a trading asset? Another possibility is on the Petry side of things. The Petrys were not exactly, I don't want to say they weren't sad to leave Montreal, but it was obvious that they had finished their time in Montreal. I'm not sure that Jeff and Julie Petry and the kids want to be back in Montreal. And so if they have voiced, now granted, Montreal was not on Petry's no trade list. However, if Montreal is not where they want to be, perhaps his agent has voiced that to the Canadiens, because it's been crickets on the Petry side as well. Nothing on Jeff Petry's social media accounts. Nothing on Julie Petry's social media accounts. No, hey, Montreal, we're back. No kind of announcement or celebration or greeting or anything like that. So it's been radio silence on the team side. It's been radio silence on the Petry side of things. And so that is the first thing that really kind of leads me to believe that this is not a move that is concrete, cemented, and set in stone just quite yet. Next, it's simply that there isn't a need for a Jeff Petry on the upcoming season roster. Another defenseman is not what the Habs need at this point. You've got guys like Mike Matheson, David Savard, who are decent veteran defensemen who can provide a bit of stability. They've got a very strong young core of defensemen, and at this stage in the rebuild, those young defensemen, the Ghoulies and the Harrises, for that matter, Justin Barron even, need to start getting that ice time, need to start getting, at this point in their rebuild, They need to get as many opportunities as they can. Jeff Petry coming back onto the roster just clogs up the pipeline again a bit. So I'm not convinced that Jeff Petry is something that this Canadiens team needs coming into this upcoming season. This is another reason that I'm not quite sure Jeff Petry is really going to stick around. So finally, that brings up the big question for me, which is, does Kent Hughes already have something in the works? Perhaps a couple of GMs that he's speaking to that he's fairly confident maybe that he can flip Jeff Petry before the start of the season, let him go get settled with a different team, and there's a different kind of acquisition that Hughes has an eye on and a target on, that he's going to try to use Jeff Petry as a tool to get that big prize, whatever that may be. Or is Jeff Petry going to have to start the season with the Montreal Canadiens, which A, I don't think is great for Jeff Petry. B, as I just mentioned, I don't think is great for the defensive prospects on the Canadiens roster. And then Kent Hughes tries to move him at the trade deadline. Personally, I'm hoping that's not going to be the case, because in my eyes, that's wasting the first half of the season with a Jeff Petry in your lineup who doesn't need to be there and is taking a spot away from a younger defenseman who really could use those minutes for that first half of the year. And I don't think Jeff Petry is going to be the only kind of big piece of the puzzle who could move prior to the beginning of the season. The addition of Casey DeSmith, the backup goaltender for the Penguins, in this deal, too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to the goaltending crease for the Montreal Canadiens. So does this mean that perhaps Kent Hughes is looking to deal Jake Allen? There's Jake Allen, there's Sam Montembeault. Kent Primo is waiver eligible now this year. Is Kent Hughes working on a deal to move out one of those goaltenders, and Casey DeSmith was the insurance piece to replace that goaltender, whomever that might be, when this trade happens? That's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Oh, and speaking of goaltending, on the Canadiens Connection podcast, which is one of our podcasts you can watch right here on our YouTube channel, we have just completed a 3-part series on goaltending, featuring 3 really exciting exclusive interviews that myself and Rick Stevens here at Rocket Sports conducted. First up, we had former NHL goaltender Marty Biron on the show. He gave us his complete breakdown of what he feels today's NHL goaltending looks like and is comprised of. And he gives us his analysis on the Habs NHL goaltenders, the Jake Allens, the Sam Montembeaults, and even talks a little bit about Kent Primo's development. Next up, we had Sean Richardson, who is the head goaltending scout for FC Hockey. Way back in the day, they were future considerations. Now they are FC Hockey. He came on the show to give us his excellent insight on all of the goaltenders, the 3 goaltenders that the Habs drafted in Nashville just about over a month ago, as well as guys like Emmett Croteau and Jakub Dobis, who are currently in the Habs system. So he gave us the Habs goaltending prospect pipeline analysis. Last but not least, last week on the show, we had an exclusive interview with our very good friend here at Rocket Sports, Charlie Lindgren, former Habs goaltender. He now has just finished his first full season as an NHL goaltender as the backup to Darcy Kemper with the Washington Capitals. And so he joined the show to talk about his first full year in the NHL, getting reunited this year coming up with Joel Edmondson and Max Pacioretty and Kirk Muller, who will be behind the bench for Washington. And he gave us some insight, some fun things. Who was his best friend that he still keeps in touch with even now from the Montreal Canadiens and his time with the Habs. They were all 3 exclusive interviews. We were happy to talk to all 3 of those guys. You don't want to miss a minute of any of those. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, so that you don't miss an episode when it comes out. Hit the like button. Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. And of course, tap that share button. Share this episode on your favorite social media platform. Earlier in the summer, I listed the top 3 priorities for Kent Hughes on his summer to-do list for the Habs. How many of them has he completed? Is there anything left that I felt he needed to get done this summer that hasn't been checked off the list? Well, to find out, watch this video right here, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.